Gaeilgeoirí agus tá fáilte mhór roimh inne. Our mission today with this panel is to open a door for you into the world of language learning and into the Irish language in particular. And with me today for this discussion, for this chorale, are Áine, a bilingual comedian, and the subject of the 2019 short Grá agus Eagla, which examined sort of emotions around language learning. And Áine is a self-styled guerrilla Irish teacher, so we look forward to hearing more about that. We have Fangja, my colleague here from the School of Irish, Celtic Studies and Folklore at UCD, who is a lecturer in Old Irish and who recently broke national headlines when he was applying for Irish citizenship and submitted the form in Irish, and the form was rejected because the office couldn't handle it. So if that's not more Irish than the Irish themselves, I don't know what is. And then last but not at all least, Ola, a writer, freelance journalist and broadcaster who works with Radio na Lifa, and who brings the best of African and African Irish music to Irish language audiences with labhraíonn, her programme there, and who's been helping the community to understand the implication of Black Lives Matter in an Irish context, which has been extremely useful for us in the last year. My name is Owen and I work in UCD as an educational technologist. I teach Irish as well, and in my spare time I compose raps in Irish, believe it or not. So all four of us, and Caithfear is chainteoir Gaeilge. We're all Irish speakers who learned Irish outside the home, but we've made it a central part of our lives. So we'll talk about our journeys and the fear that we've had around the Irish language, but also the áthas, the joy and the grá and the love that we have for the Irish language and for speaking it with other Irish speakers in Ireland and all around the world. So tá fáilte mhór i phobal na Gaeilge an seo inniu ach tá an timachta dírithe níos mó na aine eile uaillmhianach na teanga atá féidir ag leibhéal níos gcéire don tús. So this event will mostly be in English, as we want to make it accessible for people who are dipping their toe back into Irish, who have Cúpla Focal but are looking to take it further and to learn from us. So this conversation is part of the UCD Festival at Home 2021. It's normally a lovely sunny festival on the campus, and we throw open the gates and welcome the public in to enjoy free educational and cultural events. So the andara bliain inis bhfuil an éile rinne ach tá na himachtaí chobriúir agus chospéisiúil is a bhí roimhe seo, agus tá muid inis críola fud an domhan rud atá anuas. So there are more than 20 discussions taking place over the 3 days of the festival, and everybody should be able to find something they enjoy because there's more than 100 events across the length of the festival. So you'll find the full programme at ucd.ie/festival, and you can join the conversation today by speaking to us in the chat on YouTube and on Twitter by using the hashtag UCD Festival. So labhraíonn labhartha. So today we're going to talk about going from speaking the Cúpla Focal to making Irish a meaningful part of our lives. And there are lots of different ways to get into the Irish language, and I think each of us has a slightly different story on that. So I think it would be useful to start the discussion at last, that I can shut my mouth and let you talk, by finding out how it was that you came to the Irish language. Which gate did you come through? So basically, Áine, I know that in Grá agus Eagla, you introduced yourself as one of those strange people who learned Irish in school and enjoyed it. So I guess just bugan that a raw we all the teanga the hain.
Sure, yeah, well, Tigam or Captain Mohiam are on typical Irish person, Ishli Awan, because I feel like every Irish person has an interest in Irish. Ach, you know, Toshe Dacher doing a kind, agus, you know, Aulam and all of that. So, yeah, vi sim agam in Gaeilge sa school. And then Taréis an school, rinne me iirecht chun lauert. It's just like, I just tried my best to not lose it. Ach, like, nor told me to kind of like the road of learning Irish, like hog she along. I'm dum chun ma winning, like ma chuid winning a fiasu. And so I still feel like Tom by me agoni ag fálam, like it's like that road is never ending. But is stoí just husig me ag déanamh na céimeanna bíodh, like so taréis an school actually an rud ná so creeknig me school 2000 is a sé agus 2000 is a 3 so 2013 rinne me New Year's resolution chun Gaeilge a labhart gach lá. And wow. That was actually the turning point for me. So before that, I had kept trying a little bit here and there, and it was really just hard. And then vi co Ibraha agam ag an aim, so vi Gaeilge aige, and I would just talk with the man that I worked with every day in Irish, and that's what like built my confidence. Agus then the first, like the kind of other turning point, rinne me reality TV show RTG Cahir Darvanam on Gaeilge is Granvera. That was also 2013. And that was my first immersive experience, and that was terrifying. But vi sin an kind of tahi a vi agam chun Gaeilge a aulam, and then taréis sin vi kind of pobl agam agus vi me an aun I a labhart. Níos minice.
Aontach. Yeah, tá sé sin anspéisiúil, mar am se cosú leat sa méid is ná rastal mis ar Ghaelscoil mar hampla agus, dóla mé mo chud Gaeilge roirí ar an scoil ach is an í sin gur thosa mis go le drón na Gaeilge freisin ag an old scoil agus I chur aithne ar roiine agus is sé sin an rud a bhúnig go mé stocha. So yeah, just it's actually through meeting other people that you get that network, and then you've got that I suppose space for communication and the need to use the language, which makes it, much more useful. When people say it's useless language, it's not if you've got people near you.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I always try to say is like, I didn't grow up in a Gaeltacht, and I didn't go to a Gael school, and my family don't speak Irish. Like, so it is possible to speak it. And yes, taréis an TG an show TG Cahir hosig meg immert pell le fuirin like na Gael óga, so they're an Irish speaking team, and that was vi sin an deis chun Gaeilge a labhart like meaningfully in my everyday life, because I think sin an 5 atá a gwin, like níl na deis na aun chun I a labhart just normally.
No, and maybe I might bring Fangja in here, because just when you mentioned the deisina, the opportunities for speaking Irish, because I know your story is completely different, because husid tú ag fólam na Gaeilge las mata éidean. So cunna sa rinne tú sin, cunna sa chroitheadh tú na deisina sin the chain. Yeah.
Well, Creighton no nachréite, neart dín haar lár, I will seem ag fálam Gaeilgeoir, so fótan dáin sa Rouge in Russia, sa Tien in China, not just in those kind of conventional countries where they have a tie to the Irish diaspora community. So for a lot of us overseas from a completely different cultural background, I mean, we learned Irish mostly because we love the language itself, or we love Irish culture. Like mar hampla, dom hen nu se vi me ag éisio leis le ceol éireannach dús beidir well fihe bliain no hen. So bhfuil me leis an teanga just mar splack, mar like a spark of fire. It just lit the interest there. So I tried to learn about ní ráh mar an déisina ag an am sin sa tín. We were a very open country by then, and there wasn't a lot of internet resources. So I actually started learning it when I went to the Netherlands, and there were good teachers watching, and then agus níosin in Sasana, as in níosin nuair bhí mé ag déanamh mór stáide doctorachta I Cork. So I never enrolled in an Irish course per se, but I was very lucky that I'm surrounded by wonderful speakers like yourself, Owen, who's willing to teach me, and Dana Cora Limsa Iguni. So I think I learned from the best, and I have master don Gaeilge agus don lucht na Gaeilge. So I think it's a wonderful language, wonderful tradition, because I myself teach Old Irish And I know this is a continuous tradition that goes on for more than 2,000 years, and it has such a rich background. You just don't understand it without the language. Language is like ochar in the Doris, and it's opening the resource of the richness to the tradition, the star, the tradition, or the ceol, the literature. So yeah, I mean that's my story basically, Sinead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating as well. And I know, it has that story that reaches back for millennia, but it's evolving and it's developing all the time. And I know you mentioned China there. I know that now they're beginning to offer Irish in Beijing Foreign Studies University, for example. So it is expanding, in the wider world. And I know, Ola, that's something that you talk about a lot, actually. And, this new sort of wave of interest and the new revival of the Irish language, and particularly, unlike the other three of us, you attended a Gaeilge school, I think, for your whole education, if that's correct. So, I think the Gaeilge school is a great example of how there's a new spark again, an interest in Irish language from the wider community. So, how was it for you to go to the Gaeilge school the first day and sort of be surrounded by the Irish language, and what was the experience for you like in the school?
Yeah, bad because I was 3 years old, so I don't remember, but I do remember my mum always telling me that we tried it out and I really enjoyed the atmosphere. I got on with everyone, and it literally happened by chance as well. That's what's so interesting about it, because we were living in Rinne at the time, and up the road there was a Gaeilge school, and my dad got a flyer in the door, and that's just how it happened. He saw a flyer for Gaeilge school in Oak and was like, sure, why not put her in? And that was year 2000, so it was really not a thing for someone of the background to be in an all-Irish school. Is very different. So that's why I always say that it was by chance, and it was in some way a sort of a risk, because you don't know how it's going to be. You have no clue. And again, this was 2000. There was this the time that inward migration only started coming into Ireland, so it was really something kind of strange. It was seen as something kind of strange, but I did it, and as I went on, actually, people of different backgrounds started coming into that school, actually, and I remember we used to celebrate different cultures every year as well. So it was a really great experience to start to see other people of different backgrounds speaking Irish. And then I went on to an all-Irish secondary school as well. And that was natural for me to continue, because most of my friends were going to that school as well. And I wanted to continue with the Irish. It didn't make sense for me just to go to all-Irish primary school and then forget about it. I wanted to continue. And funny enough, I didn't study Irish in college, but I did keep the Irish with me anyway. So I did go to Radio Lifa after my leaving cert, because I knew I had interest in media, and I had Irish as well, so I thought, why not? And I had heard about Radio Lifa a couple of years previous to that, when I was doing my transition year with Gaeilge. They had a media course, Man Cummersáide Chomá, so the main now can all Dullar Ashkin Radio Lifa, agus Kirkester who féidir Brian Tahi Ibra all an seo, because we wish a cúpla look come on, we make shock egg, curriculum Ardteist, so we wish a cappa, my year, Mulkut Gaeilge come on, is Slovenia Tag over and show. So I didn't have that much confidence, to be honest, in my Cumas Gaeilge, and it's right up until, I think it was only a few years ago, that I thought, what, to Gaeilge Bog, before them winning the Castle Fane. So I started to think, I should just be more confident in myself. And now I just feel a lot more natural speaking the language and communicating with people and writing it as well. I've been trying to write some bilingual poetry as well. I've been working on my writing a lot, as well as my journalism as well. So it's just been an amazing journey, and just, finding out different things of how to use the language,
Tá sé sin gohíntaach agus an rud sin faoi bheith nervhíiseach mar sin faoi sílim go mraithan gachaine agan sin, agus braham se fós é uaireanta nuair a bhí mar caint le duine as an Gaeltacht. We all feel it with different speakers, that, maybe my Irish is not as good as theirs. And I think sometimes from the outside, people don't realize that, but that we're all feeling it all the time. So it's nice to acknowledge that. And I know that we have probably loads of stories about that, but I wanted to just come to something that Ola said there. Just Meas tú ó thaobh an phobal tá spás an dit an bhuiile ala agus a fangde agus Áine an mraithn sibh bhfuil spás an díobh. Like an áit é a chur an fáilte rót nó an bhfuil obair le déanamh ag pobal na Gaeilge fós an dóilí. And maybe I'll just throw that to Ola, right back to Ola, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, sílam go bhfuil an pobal Gaeilge anas go agus déir mi sin a gcóí mohím go bhfuil na Gaeil mar dar chlán chuid smó den am in our era agus tá an pobal leatnú amach, tá daoine de cúlra difriú le léir simán. Ceapan just bí major bí daoine cúhalach major rih an pobal a bhfuil an pobal ann nómh nó péad ach they're fine to because they're current to fade leis shit about. You find out that the community really is for everyone. I know a lot of the time when people finish at Gael school they don't continue with the Irish, but I think the public Gaeilge finds you. So at Raja Lifa, that's how I've met so many different Gaeilgeoirí, and my Irish has improved because of that as well. Because I've met Gaeilgeoirí all over the country as well. So. Sin an rud, just kind of to féile curl stig don fubal láir.
Cínte. Agus an álagan siad a séine.
Yeah, eintiam lei sin Ola, and I think an five is mó a bhí agam ná like this perceived judgment on pobal Gaeilge, like so bhí sin more imucheann than the reality, and so Mona, if you're not part of the Irish community, obviously it's hard to break into it. Like it's hard to break into every community, and you have to go through a few awkward experiences at the start. And I have plenty of stories that I can share, and that's fine and it's normal. But no, honestly, den cuid is smó bíonn daoine just cordial agus jazz agus just what a daoine go mbeidh níos mó daoine ag caint as Gaeilge. That's all people want, really.
Sure, right,
and honestly, when I learned, because I think feeling like an imposter and feeling like I'm not good enough is the thing that I struggle with all of the time. And learning actually that it's acceptable to also go to engage with Irish speakers and listen in Irish but speak in English, or inish tosars Tommy Goni ag úsáid Béarla agus Gaeilge nor Tommy kind as Gaeilge. I'll lose my words and I'll start speaking Irish, or I use the adjective as Béarla because my vocab is terrible, but it's fine, it's acceptable, and people really don't mind.
Not at all. That's exactly. And I wonder, you just mentioned those perceptions that we have of Irish speakers. Fangja, I'd say you have an interesting view on that, because from coming to Ireland, I feel maybe from outside that sort of maybe historical baggage, or the baggage that we pick up in school. Do you see that? Do you feel that as well? Or are you sort of free of that because you learned Irish through a different route?
Well, I guess the longer I live here, the more I am kind of part of it, because, well, at first when I came to Ireland, like every just random tourist or whatever, I learned other languages, and I can use Cúpla Focal of German or Turkish, a lot of languages. So I always make people happy when trying to speak it, but it's all about the expectation when I'm here for such a long time. And when I suddenly, get embroiled with the Department of Justice, with this all the citizenship thing, so I guess people will have a higher expectation of me to speak better Irish than Cúpla Focal, so there will be a little bit of pressure in there. I admit it, but I think the important thing is to really try and to reach out to people, to use the language in all kind of circumstances that I can. I mean, it's not just a language for poetry, for well-talked related matters. It's also a language that you can use to buy milk, to get on board the bus. And as I just heard a couple of days ago from Áine, another Irish speaker, she always speaks, uaillmhianach with the bus driver. So I think it's a very good start,
It is. And actually, tá sé sin spéisiúil mar denim sin rud céanna ar an mus derm gur maithagat nar éilí má mus abeidach. I'd be very reluctant to do it in other situations because I'm afraid that I'm going to put the other person on the spot. So I tend not to actually just introduce conversation in Irish until I find out later that the person is an Irish speaker, which is a shame, because I think sometimes you end up with Irish speakers who would much prefer to be speaking together as Gaeilge, speaking in English, because they just don't know yet. I do think, and I know that Áine, you've experience of that as well. So, I think, I don't know if you'd like to say anything about those expectations.
Oh God! It's I don't know. Well, so Puinta one just simul Fengsha was saying it. I think Danum Tomagoni explained him. Oh yeah, it's before dom like milk. I should just buy milk as Gaeilge, or ruddy marsha, like the small, simple, everyday things. Or every time I'm in the shop, I should just say Gurv Malgut. Like, why do I not do that? Because still, I'm an Irish speaker. I'm kind of a big part of my career is about Irish, and I feel like I'm not speaking it as much as I could be or should be. But it's amazing, actually. It's just quite difficult to do it. So I think we shouldn't shame ourselves, just to understand that it is hard. Because I was like, okay, I'll buy milk every day. Every time I buy milk, I'll speak in Irish. And then the thing that surprised me most was the number of ways I could avoid buying milk. Or I would just put it off, or be like, oh no, before donna done before done, I shouldn't be drinking milk. And, or it's just funny. It is actually, it's a difficult thing to do, and I think, we think it should be easy, capping with, daula me Gaeilge fag blinta, I should be able to speak it. It's okay that we can't, and we should praise more what we do and how we try to speak it than putting ourselves down for not. I think so. Kind of the expectations question. Yeah, I think we're also always expecting ourselves to be fluent, to speak Irish exactly how we speak English, but it's a second language, and it's a minority language. So that means Níl na deisina a gin chun í labhairt go minic. So just to enjoy it a bit more and not put so much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, go home. And I think, that thing about going, the people just going out into the world and just speaking it with strangers is not likely to happen. But actually, I think what's been happening for a long time, really, but with social media as busy as it is at the minute, people are finding each other on there. And I know, for example, that if I go to Rathmines, to Green's barber, there's an Irish language barber there called Alan, and Jin Alan Mochut Gruige, agus Beeman on Lowerclash, Lenaline. So Tashishin and Thorla, that we're actually finding this sort of, the network makes itself clear as well, so that you can start to create more opportunities for yourself within that network. But if we could break through and start ordering our milk, despite the environmental impact, through Irish, that would be good.
It really would. And it's just, I think it's surprising how difficult it is. And just to acknowledge that it is difficult, and that's fine. And if you do manage to do it, and if you talk to the bus driver, that's actually really impressive. So fair play to you. Yeah.
And I thought maybe we could come back there. I think, say, coming from a Gael School background, agus a Cain's Gaeilge chulalar Scoil, an bhfuil na gréasáin sin fós beo héis na scoile, nó an bhfuil bhfuil anchud ibre gceist chun sin na chuineáil I gimicht, nó an álaigh nar a bhúlann tú le duine le Gaeilge an chéadúir. An gcuiníonn si bhormh in sin na Cain's Gaeilge nó conas atá sé sin.
She sin an civil go dúir chu chuirtú ceiste mar an rud ná tá those cóide agam an scoil ach ní bhíon méid ag leabhart as Gaeilge chomh minic is go cóirú a bheith, má tá méid ag ócáid Gaeilge chumh an méid sin ó héamh nó ó saola Gaeilge's na ócádaí a bhíonn ar siúl, agus bí méid ag leabhart Gaeilge gan áras ag na ócádaí ach ó lá go lá ar na manthóid síalta ní bhíon méid ag leabhart as Gaeilge, agus is true sin. Agus níl méid gur chur brú nó aon rud ach sweetling to Ardteist it is really weird that we wouldn't be speaking Irish even though we all have it. But I suppose because for a lot of my friends, they're not in Irish language life, so it's not as natural for them maybe to just be speaking Irish. But then with my friends in Sound and Gaeilge, it's so easy for us, obviously, to be speaking Irish because it's so natural. So it's interesting. Like, it's sad.
Once you meet somebody in Irish for the first time, being sé jacket and sin barely labhraíonn in the sometimes you hear them speaking English, you're like, oh, that's so strange. I never heard that person speak English before. Because actually, it's rud any asé sin, mar thorlíonn sé a waller throw fresh and machar into ahneir when emerla. Sometimes it's hard to swap to Irish because it's a big shift in your relationship, really, because you might not be as fluent in Irish as you are in English, or it might change the sort of the balance of the relationship. Because I do think when you're learning a new language, you're in some ways you're developing. It sounds, maybe this might sound crazy, but it sounds like it sort of feels like you're developing a second personality because you are slightly different person maybe in the other language. So, I could come to you maybe first on that one.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, that's because I grew up in a multilingual family. My family speaks 3-4 languages in the house. It's always switching between them, and a lot of politics between them. And so I would say it's definitely very, very different when you are using different languages, and there are different outlooks, the different attitudes and backgrounds, with each language. Especially considering the social situation there, as you all said, there is a kind of presumption about speaking Irish. So I think, on the other hand, there is a presumption about speaking English as well. I mean, for us, for late immigrants like who came in adulthood, if I speak English with another like Chinese immigrant, and that would suppose something, that's something strange. And obviously, we speak many languages in China, so sometimes we're not using the national language Mandarin. We're using some other languages that we both know, which will indicate a kind of intimacy or, share secrets, more bubbles that are monocells. So it's always a kind of a very, very sensitive, very delicate struggle to pick whatever language you're speaking. For instance, there's a whole desk, a whole table of Chinese people we're gathering, and what language are we speaking? That's a big problem, that could easily touch some nerves, and as well as soothing some else's. So, yeah.
Interesting. And I think, Áine, maybe you wanted to jump in there as well, did you, on that point?
Oh, yeah. Well, just like, nuair tógtar feilm teanga, yes, aintiam go homlán le, like, being person to different agus like on fibus mo a bhí agam. Well, I have a lot of problems, but like just being a really boring person in Irish, like, because like especially ag an dús, like ní raibh mé an aon rud, like I couldn't add to any questions. You're just trying so hard to understand what's going on. So like, and monavian to like, or movian group a guest, like, oh my God, like groups are almost impossible, so it's just learning to get through those difficult times of not really being able to add anything to a conversation. Agus, like, is even lom of it, like a kind agus, a goira agus, so bhí sin dachar dom. And I think like sin an rud, I've kind of accepted that I'm never going to be the exact same person as Gaeilge that I am in English, because even like nuair tógtar feilm teanga nua, níl an like an empathy céine agat, you don't really, because I'm always just like bhí mé machoni in Merlin a nuri agus ag feilm Garmánis. So, and I was having this conversation with a guy, and he was telling me about a recent breakup that he'd had, but I was just listening to him, and I was like, yeah, okay, I understood. I understood the whole conversation. And not very sensitive. Yes. Yeah. So so she's still.
Yeah. A scéalta féin a scéalta dhéanamh is é sin an brúd is dachar, I gúnaí ag fólam teangailháin. So I think the jokes is always the jewel or the crown of learning a language. Once you can be a good comedian, stand-up comedian like yourself, Áine, speaking Irish, I mean, there's nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and the thing about like, sorry. Yeah, no, the thing about like the personality switching as well, I think it's really interesting because people have told me that I'm a lot more vibrant as Gaeilge, actually. I get more excited. So I think that's really interesting as well with languages. Like,
I think so. And I think there's something maybe about, I know that like I speak French, but it's not, I can do a certain amount with it, but it's not as good as my Irish or my English. Agus nuair bhí me caint le cóir de asam rank, caian siad lum níos mó ar nósgur páiste mé, mar an cinál teanga agam. Like I'm kind of restricted in terms of language, so I speak more like a child. But when they hear me speak in English, then they think I'm quite rough, which is quite funny, but because I like large vocabulary and I can talk about anything in English, whereas I'm much more, defined in what I can say in French, which is really interesting. But maybe we could talk a bit. I know that when I studied German in college and I met my German lecturer on a bus one day, and we were talking about language learning. Agus Siúd, language learning is a lifelong lesson in failure. Agus bramgul and because you fail the whole way through and you never really get there wherever there is. So I don't, is that your experience with the learning as well, or how has that been for you? What are the challenges you faced sort of coming to learning Irish?
Yeah, like I feel like I've always, sorry. Yeah, like I feel like I've always been like a fluent Irish speaker, but it's only recently that I kind of got to know that even when you're fluent, you still need to brush up on your Irish. Both kind to the horsey end of like rinne a chóirsa Israel culture, Cúpla Focal hin agus, hospáinte sin dom caiim mé láidir Gaeilge, and it's important because you will lose your Irish if you don't like keep brushing up on it, to be honest, because I don't use Irish like every single day. So, I need to always kind of, look at cherma.ie or folklore.ie and make sure my vocabulary is on point and everything. But like, to be honest, social media, like we were mentioning before, has really helped me as well, to be honest, like communicating with people on social media, as Gaeilge, agus just occasionally like kill Gaeilge, draw me Gaeilge, Scotland mar sin. The main thing is just being communicated with others, really, as Gaeilge. That's really helped me, and listening to other people as well, definitely.
That's brilliant. And actually like bringing that into your daily life so that you're just on your news feed anyway, and half of it's in English, half of it's in Irish. I think that's really, it's a nice way to sort of start to get into it and to just have it present and to remind you, oh yeah, there is that other language there that everybody's, other people are speaking and that it's available to you. I wonder, Áine, if you'd like to come in on that, just about the
yes, I could talk for so long on this topic, but I think what is interesting as well, as humans, we focus a lot more on failure than we do on success. And also it's like how we define failure and how do we define success. And again, it comes back to expectations. And I think, we expect ourselves to be completely fluent, like we are like able to do every single thing that we can do in our native tongue. Which just, and I mean, Fengsha, it would be interesting to hear how you feel. I think you speak like 20 languages or something, but how that's just not really the reality of what you can achieve in a second language, I don't think. And for me, the big thing came when I stopped trying to fit in. I was always trying to act like I was a fluent speaker and let on, like, hope that no one would notice that my Irish wasn't as good as everyone else's. And when I learned to stop doing that, that was like a huge turning point. And actually, one thing came when I was on that TG Cahir show and everyone else was fluent and I was learning how I could use my kind of school Irish to tell jokes. And the thing that happened was people from the crew would come up to me and say, oh, I like you the best out of everyone because I can understand what you're saying. Yeah. So it was kind of this realization of, okay, this is my level of Irish. Like, this is what I can kind of expect. And these are my people and this is my voice, so to speak. And like, because we make Brachnu Siúcra by Roxanna on Físeán Siúcra. And then even I found myself at the point where she's going through all the adjectives, for the descriptive words for all these amazing ways to say, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'm like, oh my God, I don't know any adjectives in Irish. Oh, I'm so tired. Like, I'm never going to learn those words. And do you know what? I'm never going to learn those words. Like, that's just shin on like, that's the truth, you know? But it's just about realizing what you can do, I think.
Yeah, and as well as that, what you can give, because I think that's something that's true about the Irish language community. As soon as you learn it and you use it, no matter what level you're at or what areas you can use it in, like you said, you don't need to be able to do your taxes in it. Maybe you can, but you can't talk about, I don't know, sports or something. We're all in different sort of parts there, but all of us have something to contribute, and it's very enriching actually that we've got such diversity of experience and background in the community, because we have, you know, people who were raised in the cities with Irish, we have people who were raised in the Gaeltacht, who have, even just those two groups have very different life experiences but have so much to learn from each other. So I think that's really nice about the language, that and the community around the language, that we actually really cherish every single person who adds one to the number, you know, because they bring with them such an interesting perspective, you know, as well. And I think there, though, we're speaking about sort of the challenge and the, you know, the Eagla, or the fear that comes with learning the language. And I know I read a book about polyglots a few years ago, and the strategy of the fella in the book was actually, whenever he learned loads of languages, and when I don't think he really did anything else, but héach sé amach a grith agus focht, like audiobook ige agus déisteach sé leis an teanga nua. And he just screamed the language as he ran in Central Park. I think he was in the US, in New York. He'd scream the language out loud, even though he didn't know what he was saying yet. But it was just to break down that embarrassment that he had around getting his tongue around maybe sounds like in Irish, the j or the l, those sounds that are a bit foreign to a sort of an English speaker's tongue. And so that was his way of sort of saying, right, get over that embarrassment and just get on with learning. So did you have any strategies like that when you're learning the language or any other language?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Ibrian shit lucht eigen the Ibrian shit doms. So I think even especially for learning Irish, I think you hannig shifje gelhomla on fish on reaming is on them there. So I wouldn't say that would ever be true, because I had a similar experience, because the only Irish book that I can find in China is a 1963 Teach Yourself Irish by Miles Dillon, and I read it. I actually read through it before I came to Ireland, and then I turned on the TV that the first night I arrived in Ireland, and I saw T.G. Cahir. I said, oh yeah, well, that's the thing. I like test it. And there were two farmers from Connemara talking about the cows or something. I don't know. No idea. Not a single word that I can understand out of it. So it could be devastating. I mean, especially for a language where you know, there are different registers, let's say, and different scenarios where you're so far from that scenario. I mean, a guy running in Central Park, maybe he could get himself familiar with the sounds or, you know, some phrases, but it's never the same as going down into people's lives in the very specific spot and, you know, living the life and through that language. I mean, it's very, very different. I think luckily nowadays, like taught along Finchi, Aguin, Erline, agus you know, man, so we can actually learn from it better than before. But I think the Eagla there is very, very true. It's very real. I mean, we just keep learning. I don't know, like, even if I could only learn one new word a day, it could be 300 so every year. And, you know, and 6 years, then I would have a much, much better vocabulary than I had now. So that's just the way I'm adopting. Yeah.
Chuir tú a cuineamh mé an sin Manuel in Basil Fawlty, you know, there say, I speak English, I learned it from a book, agus change sin agus na frásí seo aige ach ní féidir leis an teanga úsáid, agus bí mu ar fad mar sin ar a hosí mu a fóla main rud go dtí go múla mu leis na daine go leithnítar é sin amach. I don't know, Alla, would you like to come in on that? Maybe I think your experience is a bit different as well because of the Gaelscoil background. So tá taithí níos mó agat beidir nach rá an agla sin nó an rá chutain.
Yeah, tá sé sumil, like bhí gcónaí an agla like a bhfuil an teanga seo dom agus bhí mé gcónaí ceistú mé féin mar rinne ó cúra inimmarchuach, bhí mé ceistú, an bhfuil an teanga de chasú lomsa an gádum an teanga seo elam. So bhí ábhailta mar sin agam ar scoil. So it wasn't always a smooth process for me with Irish until I got to my leaving cert that I felt like, yeah, I'm passionate about this language, and I always say that it was the Don Hillarish with Sean O'Riordan that really changed my mind, because for me it was just that passion and that kind of realization of pre-colonial Ireland that I really got passionate about. I really loved that idea because I was able to associate that with my own origins as well, being aware and English being the official language in Nigeria as well. So I was able to tie the two together, and it was just a special experience for me. And that's when I started to kind of, I suppose, decolonize my mind in terms of languages and cultures and that sort of thing as well. So for me, it was a process, really. Like, it wasn't like first day walk into school and I felt, super passionate about the language. It was a process, very much so.
And I think that's so interesting as well about decolonizing your mind, because I was speaking to a group recently. It's an LGBT sort of research network, and I was just talking about the queer Irish language groups that exist. It was just a sort of an informal talk, and they couldn't believe that such a thing exists, first of all, because they had some different perception of maybe what Irish language meant, and sort of thought that it was more traditional, maybe was sort of state funded and official, and kind of maybe connected to the church sort of. And the other thing then I said was, when you speak Irish, you realize all the time that this is a former colony, because you see it everywhere. Because you can't actually choose which language you want to speak. You're forced to use English more often than not. So actually you become acutely aware of something that maybe is not so apparent to daoine bhís a kinds béal and chud is mó an.
Tuigeann siad anois gur teanga í an Gaeilge tá sé mar forth a culture na hÉireann. So I just love that a lot of people are changing their mindset to Irish language. I think that's really it, to change your mindset. Because if you walk into a class, an Irish language class, and you just think, oh, this is a dead language, you feel so negative about it, there's a good chance that you're not going to put the effort into the subject. So that already, it's kind of in a way set for failure. But if you change your mindset, think, I can do this, this is a language for me too. I am going to try my best with this. It makes a world of difference, I really think.
Áine sílim goil scéal má hagat sa faoi sin beidir faoi wachléin faoi dalta bhí leat, bhfuil? Sandy?
Oh,
Sandy,
God. Oh, yeah. Oh, well. Oh, God. Well, conna sa dearn me an scéal seo. So, well, so is Múntóir gorilla? Gorilla Gaeilge Múntóir. Yeah, I'm a gorilla Irish teacher, as you can see, a very good one who understands Irish sentence structure. And so I was teaching. Yeah, I did a show I did on Edinburgh Féile Cúpla bliain ó shin, so the Edinburgh Fringe, and bhí me ag déanamh show gach. And it was total guerrilla. Like, I did not advertise it as Irish, and I just was out on the streets promoting it, and then people would come in like a Londini as Tirana Ella, not Ireland. So agus husig made Múna Gaeilge, so that was the show. I was surprising people by teaching Irish. And actually, I couldn't believe how interested. Den cuidas mó bhí Dini just Kate, like totally on for it, totally, and really interested. Like Hershey the long Kesht like, and just people had really wanted to learn more about Irish language and culture and didn't even know that it was a language. But of course, you get a few who aren't that interested. And there was one guy called Sandy, and he was just an obnoxious man, but he'd just be there. Like, so near the start, I'd do a lot of interaction, and he was like kind of looking at his watch and whatever, and I was like, oh, and well, gach ceart galore, like on bhfuil ein ceisteirt, like, do you have a question? And then he was like, oh no, I'm just waiting, I came expecting to laugh, just seeing how long it's going to take me to laugh. And then anyway, but the thing was, he stayed, and then we all took the piss out of Sandy for the whole show, so it was good fun. So Sandy definitely didn't learn any Irish because he came with a bad attitude, yeah. But it was actually, yeah. Anyway, that's the story. I wasn't expecting to tell.
Sorry if I find that on you, but I just thought it is just a good example of actually that when you don't come. If you come and you're not motivated, you won't learn. And I think that's very important, because I think we sort of think if we download an app and then we open the app and we look at a bit of the language on it and then close it, we're halfway there, sort of. But it's actually like, it's really hard and it takes a long time, to get comfortable. And it's something that we're always working on all the time. But the more and more you use it in your life, then the more comfortable you become and the more positive you are about just getting on with it. Agus tú úsáid. So I would just ask, what cén focal is fearlí san Gaeilge? What's your favourite word in Irish, if I could ask that? And it's go some latsa alla.
Cafam sketcherini. It's problem focal shin. It's malam macasel. It's malam shin. Agus it's malam puka. Puka kid agum. Yeah.
So Eratis nach in sketchamini, like to be excited. Sketchamini makasawal, like the likeness of something that they did. Agus puka, yeah, a ghost. Tá sin ani as fad.
Yeah. So she on like onomatopoeic, yeah.
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 Some better gotion Bacala, like son of the cliff, is actually echo, but for me, on the hauling it, yeah.
Tá sin go hauling fad. Bacala echo. Agus tú hain you will ceanna le hagatsa.
Ní ceapan go bhfuil focal agam, caithfí mé rá, like, yeah. Yeah, agus sin five, like sin on five is what agam as well, because I get questions like that and then I'm like, oh, I don't have a favourite Irish word. Oh, I'm an imposter. I don't know, yeah. But yeah.
It also happens like when you're put I hate that question too, I must admit, it's fool and that like I think it happens as well that when you're asked something on the spot, ein oclaví de chean tá sé imethe. Tarlíonn sé sin domsan a bhíam sa tailech Somália agus fach nuacht TG ceir siú agus tíocht in cin liom, what are they saying now? Agus hicin gach focal tá rá ach nuair scada mé ráid sin airíom nervhíseachas uairint in airíonn liom, bhfuil agus nó tógann sé ceapan daoine nachhfuil mé líochas an bhfuil gnéachar mar go míon máil á eistú, so sorry for putting you on the spot there, Áine. But I'm just conscious of the time, so we might just close maybe. If somebody's listening today and they want to, jump back into Irish and they want to make it a bigger part of their life, what would you suggest that they could do as a sort of as a first step? Fangja, maybe I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I croga, it's tosnige. Just be brave and jump in, headstrong.
Great. And Alla, do you have any sort of ein practical idea that she in a fresh and better le lame to?
Yeah, so like first of all, have your confidence, just have a positive mind, but also, go on Duolingo. I've heard a lot of people have been learning Irish from Duolingo and it's been really helpful to them. Also, follow, Gaeilgeoirí online, maybe that, produce a lot of content as Gaeilge, especially on YouTube. And just put more emphasis on just speaking the language with people as well. I think because for a lot of my friends that went to maybe English schools, the more conventional schools, the main thing that they were kind of upset about with the language was that they can't just speak it. There was a lot of emphasis on the grammar. So I think just speaking it, even if you make grammar mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, well, like, I'd have a few tips, but the first thing is remember, tógann sé ann. Like, it's not an overnight thing. And if you can get into some sort of habit and routine, you'll start to notice over time that you're making progress, and that's when it gets really exciting. Agus cúpla rud a rinne mé dúirt mé ag an dús ach bhí aithne agam far amháin. So I knew one guy who spoke Irish, and he was in the office, and we had, like, I trusted him and it was safe, and we would talk every day. So like a small step like that, like talking to someone who you trust and it's safe. And then just like, because sin scéal atá agam freisin ach mar dúirt mé bhí mé ag foghlaim Garmánis, so agus tá an fós ag foghlaim Garmánis. And you know, but nor a chuivan, when I think about it, ag an dús in Berlin, bhí mé machoni ann, and like an Eagla a bhí nor a bhí like like stamp-mechanic. So if I had to go out and buy a stamp or something like that, I would be terrified, and it would take me 3 days to actually work up the courage to go to the shop and do it. And then like Shavy in a year sin stuck me law a one, and I was like, oh my god, I just bought stamps and I didn't even think twice about it, you know. So this is when we talk about success and failure, you kind of forget to see the success as it's happening. And it's small and it takes a long time, but it's really fun. And once you start to enjoy those successes, like is féidir leat triail vantas, and yeah, you can enjoy the mistakes more and just see it more as a whole journey rather than shaming yourself for not being perfect immediately.
Yeah, tá sé sin go híntach, mar bhí mis go rud practical rá dhéanam hain. I'm learning Welsh at the minute, and I like open a news article on my phone, and if you highlight a word on an Android phone, it'll actually pop up Google at the bottom of your screen, and when you open that up, then it'll translate the word in Google Translate for you. And it's very slow, but dia nia like fecium, oh chunig mé an focail sin inné ach ní cuainle mé, and then féich marí séid, and it takes me maybe 4 or 5 times sometimes, and I know I should remember it, but I don't. But after the 5th or 6th time, then I do know what it is, and I feel really proud that I know that word. But there's only so far you can go with that without somebody like your friend, a human being who is there in a kind of a loop with you that makes the language more of a human thing rather than just your personal relationship with your learning resources kind of. And I think that's really powerful message actually, that is actually full the moment with the like it's really through other people that we learn the most. And I think that we're really lucky, you know, in having the Irish language community the way it is, as such an open, welcoming space with such diverse interests within it, that actually no matter what you like, you'll find it there. You know, there is music in it, there's the sports team, the Gaeilge that you mentioned, that people can go and just play Irish, and you forget then that you're there for the language, because you're there for the sport and for the cool or for the company. It just thoroughly Gaeilge. So I think really that is the way to go. So I don't know if anybody else would like to add anything else before we close.
Well,
yeah,
just one thing. Sorry, hold on. I mean, learning a language could feel like a very lonely process, especially in pandemic time. You're just skating on Duolingo, but actually learning a language could make you a lot of new friends, and it opens you up to a totally new world. Like it's much, much broader than you can have within the single language that you're born with. So that's all my word. Yeah.
Brilliant. Agus Áine.
Yeah, no, I was just going to pick up on something that Fang Shay was saying earlier on, and it was just about like, you know, being able to speak the language with like people that are from a similar background with you as well. I think that's just truly beautiful. Like I've been in incidents like that, and I just think it's so cool. And I'm really excited for the language, honestly. Like I know a lot of people feel mixed emotions about the language in the future, but for me, mostly I feel positive because I can see the change, especially sna carcha, but ahrú meown daoine ó haven Gaeilge agus. Yeah, tá méid súil an todhchaí an teanga.
Tá sé sin iontach agus tá bura mór faois na carracha. Like, it really is growing in the cities. It is in trouble in the Gaeltacht, and I do think as neo-native speakers, for all of us living in the city, we do have a duty to speak up for those Gaeltacht communities that are sort of marginalised and pushed to the edges, sort of, and don't have the same resources that maybe are available to us in Dublin. So I think that's important, and to realise that we and they, despite our differences, are the same community, and that we're there for each other as well. I think there's something really rich that comes out of that interaction too. Áine?
Oh no, I just think that was really nice what Ola said, like, you know, totu tanu leis an tauchi, and like feeling positive, because you can just get dragged down by the negative conversations around Irish, and like it's even in on Gaeilge, like den cuid is smó daoine as éireann, like tá sim a gcuin in Gaeilge agus bhuachlinn a bheith a caint astí. So yeah, let's just do it. Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe just to close, I think like and Cahar agin seo, the four of us here weren't Irish speakers, and now we are, and we all came to the Irish language in different ways, but we are all Irish speakers now, and we can speak Irish, and we do speak Irish, and we're all still learning, and we're all learning in different ways, and you know, we'll never actually get to there, like we said, but that doesn't matter, because it's actually the learning that's enjoyable, and it's like experimenting with the language, you're going, pushing it a little bit, like moving it so that it can talk about things that maybe it hasn't before. And I'm thinking about Ola, your piece in Master on Air about Gruig na Man Dove, like black women's hair, that, you know, I've never read anything like that before in Irish, and it's so important that that's being spoken about in Irish as well, and that you're helping to teach us, you know, about African Irish culture. So I think it's important that we bend the language and allow it to talk about all of those things, and with interesting people like yourselves. It's really lovely of a kindly in you. So I suppose the last thing is just that for like Nadina Samala, like you can do it too. We've all done it, and you can do it too. And I think, you know, looking at the video, say Gra agus Eagla, by that Áine was a part of, and then Siúcra by Roxanna, really worth looking at those things. Is just a way to say, you know, you can just start, and you should just jump in, because it's very rewarding when you stick with it. So Tandoras Erosco Tanish, agus tá fáte uaillmhianach isteach. And so the door is open, and we're inviting you in. So just want to thank you for joining us at UCD Festival today. Go raibh míle maith as bhelling.